Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna and welcome to all the devotees online. Thank you very much for your kind association as we continue associating with Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 3, Chapter 10, verses 14 to 30, Division of Creation. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Taparakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha E Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Vade Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubheva Cha Patitanam Pavinebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesa Sunyavadi Pastatari Satarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Sarva Shastra Piyusha, Sarva Vedika Satphala, Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadya, Sarva Lokai Trikprada, Sarva Bhagavata Prana, Srimad Bhagavata Prabhu Kalidundo Didaditya, Shri Krishna Parivartita, O Srimad Bhagavatam, O nectar churn from the ocean of all Vedic scriptures, O most prominent transcendental fruit of all the Vedas, O you enrich with the jewels of all spiritual philosophical conclusions, O you grant spiritual vision to all the people of the world, O light bread of the Vaishnava devotees, O Lord, you are the sun which has arisen to dispel the darkness of Kali Yuga. You are actually Lord Krishna who has returned amongst us. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshasha Rayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namastute. O Srimad Bhagavatam, offer respectful obeisance unto you. By reading, one attains transcendental bliss. For your syllabus rain pure love got upon the reader. You are always to be served by everyone for your incarnation of Lord Krishna. Madekabando Mat Sanghim Mad Guru Mahan. Mad Ekabando Mat Sanghim Mad Guru Man Mahadana. Man Nishtaraka Mad Bhagya Madananda Namastute. O Srimad Bhagavatam, O my only friend, O my companion, my teacher, my great wealth, my deliverer, my good fortune, my bliss, offer respectful obeisance unto you. Asadu sadhu tadaina tinicho tadarika hanamuncha kadachinmam premna ritkatayospura. O Srimad Bhagavatam, O give us saintliness to the unsaintly, O uplift to the very fallen. Please do not ever leave me. Please become manifest Mahatma Trod, accompanied pure love of Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Janmadyasya Yotanvaya Ritaratas Charta Sobhigna Swarat Tene Brahma Hidayadi Kavaye Muyanti Yatsuraya Tejo Vari Mridam Yatha Vinimayo Yatrati Sargam Mrisha Damna Svena Sada Nirasta Kukam Satyam Param Dhimai. O my Lord Shri Krishna, Son of Vasudeva, O pervading personality of Godhead, offer my respectful obeisance unto you. I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he is the absolute truth and the primary cause of all causes of creation, sustenance, destruction of the manifested universes. He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations and is independent because there is no other cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji, the original living being. By him, even great sages and demigods are placed into illusion as one is bewildered by illusory representation of water seen in fire, land seen on water. Only because of him did the material universe is temporarily manifested by the reaction of the three modes of nature appear factual, although they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri Krishna, who is eternally existing in a transcendental abode, which is forever free from illusory representation of the material world. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth. Prayanal Paisha Sabya Kalavis Minuge Jana Manda Sumanda Matayo Manda Bhagyo Padrata, all under one in the signage of Kali Mene, but short lies, a quarrelsome, lazy, misguided, unlucky, and above all, always disturbed. Narayan Namaskritya Narachevam Naratamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisance unto the personality of God and Narayan, unto Nara and Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, and the Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasa, the author. Savai pumsa paro dharmo yato bhaktira dokshaja ahitukiya pratiyata yayatma suprasiddhati. The supreme occupation dharma for all humanity is that by which man can attain to loving devotional service under the transcendent Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated, uninterrupted, completely satisfy the self. Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Jana Yachusava Ragyam Jnanam Chata Hoitukam. By rendering devotional service under the personal Godhead Shri Krishna, one immediately acquires cosmic knowledge and detachment from the world. Vedanti tattva vidas tattvam yach gnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti sabhyate. Learned transcendentalists who know the absolute truth, call this non-dual substance Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan. Shru Shosha Dhanasya Vasudeva Kataruchi Syan Mahatsevaya Vipra Punya Tirtha Nishevanat. O wise born sages, by serving those devotees who are completely freed from all vice, great service is done. By such service, one gains affinity for hearing the messages of Vasudeva. Shranrutam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Ryadantastoya Badrani Vidunoti Suretsatam. Shri Krishna, the person of Godhead, who is Paramatma, super soul in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotees, develop the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtues when properly enchanted. Nasta Prashu Badreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatuttama Slokir Bhaktir Bhavati Neshtiki. By regular attendance in the class of Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotees, all the troubles from the heart is almost completely destroyed. And loving service unto the person of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental song, is established as an irrevocable fact. Etavang Samkhya Yoga Vyamso Dharmam Parinishtaya Janma Labha Parapam Samante Narayana Smriti. The highest perfection of human life achieved either by complete knowledge of matter and spirit, by practicing mystic powers, or by perfect discharge of occupational duty, is to remember the personal Godhead at the end of life. Akama sarva kama va moksha kama udariditi vrena bhakti yogena yajate purusham param. A person who has broad intelligence, where they be full of all material desires, without any material desire or desire and liberation, must by all means worship the supreme whole, the personality of Godhead. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We are continuing Srimad Bhagavatam based on the teachings of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivinoda Swami Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Hare Krishna, and welcome again. Anyone has any feedback or remembrance from the last session? What was the main theme? What you took home? What you remembered from that session? If anybody has feedback, otherwise we will continue. So we're covering the divisions of creation. And we went from verse 1 to 13, where Maitri Muni is describing the creation, Lord Brahma's life of creating this world and what he's going through. And the main theme that, or the important lesson that we gleaned from last session was the time factor. Yes, Mother says, if you see Krishna in time, you see Krishna everywhere. So that was a very important aspect. Time, the energy of time, Kala Shakti, is what really creates, maintains, and destroys this creation. Cycle of time. And Krishna is appearing in his impersonal feature in the form of time. And therefore, time controls every facet of creation and everything in creation. And therefore, since every single one of us are controlled by time, you can, just like, for example, we started at 4 p.m. There's a time, start time, there'll be an end time. Practically every moment of our life, the time factor is in our life. And that time factor that is in our life is actually Krishna. So if we can see through that time factor, through that aspect of Krishna's energy of time, if we can see the personality that has manifested in the form of time, we can become Krishna conscious all the time. So that's a very wonderful way to try to keep ourselves Krishna conscious. The challenge is to remember that philosophical understanding so that we can connect it to remembering Krishna. Ray says, if you separate it from Krishna, it's a loss of time. Yes. So therefore, we need to use our time, which is using Krishna's energy for the pleasure of Krishna, and in this way become Krishna conscious. So today we're going to be completing this chapter 14 to 30, 10 divisions of creation. So first we're going to cover types of destruction, then the types of primary creation, and then the types of secondary creation. 14. Sarganava vidastasya prakrito vaikritas tuya kaladravya gunerasya trivida pratishankrama. There are 9 different kinds of creations besides the one which naturally occurs due to the interactions of the modes. There are 3 kinds of annihilations due to eternal time, the material elements, and the quality of one's work. Purport. The scheduled creations and annihilations takes place in terms of the supreme will. There are other creations due to interactions of material elements, which take place by the intelligence of Brahma. Later, these will be more explicitly explained. At present, only the preliminary information is given. The 3 kinds of annihilations are due to scheduled time of the universe, of the annihilation of the entire universe. 2, due to a fire which emanates from the mouth of Ananta. And 3, due to one's qualitative actions and reactions. Okay, so there is the universal destructive as timeline. Then Ananta Shesh, fire coming out from his mouth burns the universe. That's another form of destruction. And then our own activities, actions and reactions due to the modes. That is also a form of annihilation. 15. Adyastu mahat sargo guna vaishamyam atmana dvitiyas twahamo yatra dravya gnana kridodaya. Of the 9 creations, the first one is the creation of the Mahatattva, or the sum total of material ingredients, wherein the modes interact due to the presence of the Supreme Lord. In the second, false ego is generated, in which material ingredients, material knowledge, and material activities arise. So now we are hearing about creation in a very systematic form. Srimad Bhagavatam is Krishna appearing in a literary form, Trantaraj. And if the Bhagavatam is Krishna, and if Krishna is the ultimate source, the creator, the all-knowing supreme personality of Godhead, and Srimad Bhagavatam is non-different from Krishna, then clearly everything that is stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam is perfect. For those who have faith, this is very revealing, very enlightening, and very, very satisfying. That we are hearing perfect knowledge, not knowledge of creation starting with, I think. I think there was a Big Bang. I think it came like this. I think this element came like this. No, there is no thinking in this process. The Lord is giving this knowledge through the chain of disciplic succession as it is. Those who have no faith, well, then it becomes a challenge. And the problem is with those that have no faith, they can't even validate. How are you going to validate this aspect of the first creation of the Mahatattva ingredients? You can't see beyond the sky. You can't even see beyond your eyelids certain things. So your vision is limited. You can't see beyond. You can't see past. So there is no way for you to validate this information if you have no faith. Or at least give an alternative that's better than this. The only alternative they have is the Big Bang. There was an explosion and everything ordered itself. And there you are. And it's interesting, they accept that. Can see how teeny little brains they have, that they accept such a theory and they promote that, yet this knowledge that has such detailed description, they reject. So very clear, we're going through 9 different forms of creation, from subtle to gross. And the initial form of creation is basically the creation of the blueprint, the foundation, the design, the software that's required for complete manifestation of creation, for physical creation. Just like you need the hardware, the ingredients, then you need to put the software into the computer, the operating system, and then the user can use it. So like that, creation is very systematic, and the Lord is now describing that systematically through the agency of Maitreya Muni. The first emanation of the Supreme Lord for material creation is called Mahatattva. The interaction of the material modes is the cause of false identification or sense that a living being is made of material elements. This false ego is the cause of identifying the body and the mind with the soul proper. So the Mahatattva ingredients are there. Then from the Mahatattva, you get false ego. False ego is the operating system, or you could say false ego is the software that allows you to misidentify with the body. You're misidentifying the soul with the body. You're so identifying with the body, with occupation, with the environment you're born in. So that false ego gives you an identity, and that identity is false. But that identity that you are getting due to the false ego is critical for the environment you are placed in. You want to enjoy separately from Krishna, and because you want to enjoy separately from Krishna, then you have to be given the appropriate software and hardware to be able to do that. You can't enjoy separately from Krishna in the spiritual world, because Krishna is everywhere. Krishna is there. So there's no way it's good, you can do that. So Krishna gives you this material creation in where you can try to fulfill that desire. And in order to do that, this facility is given of creation of both subtle and gross aspects and elements for you to perform the desire, or act upon the desire that you have. Material resources and the capacity and knowledge to work are all generated in the second term of creation, after the Mahatattva. Jnana indicates the senses, which are sources of knowledge and the controlling deities. Work entails the working organs and controlling deities. All these are generated in the second creation. (16) Bhuta Sarga Tritiyastu Tanmatro Dravya Shaktiman Chaturtha Indriya Sargo Yastu Jnana Kriyatmaka. Sense perceptions are created in the third creation, and from these the elements are generated. The fourth creation is the creation of knowledge and of working capacity. So we can see everything very systematically unfolding, unpacking itself. 17. Vaikariko devasarga paschamo yanman mayammana shastastu tamas sasargo yastu abudi kritas prabho. The fifth creation is that of controlling deities by the interactions of the mode of goodness, of which the mind is the sum total. The sixth creation is the ignorant darkness of the living entity, by which the master acts as a fool. So even ignorance is an energy, an element, it's creation. The mode of goodness, creation. The controlling deities, they created. All these, the mind is created. Purport. The demigods in the higher planets are called devas because they are all devotees of devotees of Vishnu. Vishnu Bhakta Smrito Deva Asuras Tad Viparyaya. All the devotees of Lord Vishnu are called devas or demigods, whereas all others are asuras. That is the division of the devas and the asuras. The devas are situated in the mode of goodness or material nature, whereas the asuras are situated in the mode of passion or ignorance. The demigods, or the controlling deities, are entrusted with departmental management of all the different functions of the material world. For example, one of our sense organs, the eyes, is controlled by light. Light is distributed by the sun rays, and their controlling deity is the sun. Similarly, mind is controlled by the moon. All other senses, both for working and for acquiring knowledge, are controlled by different demigods. The demigods are assistants of the Lord in management of material affairs. After the creation of the demigods, all entities are covered by the darkness of ignorance. Each and every living being in the material world is conditioned by his mentality of lording it over the resources of material nature. Although living entity is the master of the material world, he is conditioned by ignorance, by false impressions of being the proprietor of material things. So first we understand the demigods as managerial, as departmental management, departmental managers, controlling different affairs of the material world. And they are assisting the Lord in managing this creation. Krishna does not need to, Krishna does not manage this material world. He's got his agents managing this material world. Then the aspect of the living entity, the human beings, practically every living entity that comes into this material world is covered by ignorance and the mentality of lording it over material resources, thinking one is the proprietor. So that's the imprint, that's the blueprint, that's the conditioning that every single living entity has. From top to bottom, from small to big, everybody has this mentality. And that mentality of proprietorship is the mentality of Krishna. It's his quality, it's his prerogative. He's the supreme proprietor. But as it's mentioned, because we want to enjoy separately, then Krishna is fulfilling that desire, bringing us in this material world and giving us the coverings to allow us to become or emulate ourselves as proprietors, but naturally it is not our true nature. Therefore, there's incongruency. Therefore, there is an unsettling feeling. Material nature seems to be controlled by me, and then for some reason gets out of my grasp. So it seems like we're controlling, and then it slips away. Just like you find, different countries, people can build such amazing facilities, and then you just need a tsunami that comes, and one tsunami can devastate the whole place, flatten the whole place, destroy it like it didn't exist. That's the power. So these cycles of nature revealing itself is highlighting that something's wrong. Starts to get people to think, why is this happening? It shouldn't happen. But why is it happening? That thinking process is very good because it starts to get people to question and start to find out answers. The Bhagavatam is revealing what is the cause of all these calamities, challenges, difficulties in our life. Why is it happening? And when we understand creation and we start reversing creation in terms of the process we are given to reverse this process of creation, we can then unwind all these aspects and then come to the original situation of living entity in relation to the supreme living entity. The energy of the Lord, called avidya, is the bewildering factor of the conditioned souls. The material nature is called avidya, or ignorance. But to the devotees of the Lord engaged in pure devotional service, this energy becomes vidya, or pure knowledge. So there are those who are not servants of Krishna, not engaged in devotional service. There are those who are servants of Krishna and engaged in devotional service. We're in the same environment. That same environment acts on those who are non-devotees bewildering, and on those who are devotees enlightening. And that is why if one is practicing Krishna consciousness, you will experience this very clearly. You will experience clarity. You will experience that in some situations where you would be so baffled, so bewildered, that same situation, when you starting to practice Krishna consciousness, becomes very clear in terms of what you need to do or what you should not do. So that aspect of clarity is very powerful. Vidya, knowledge, empowering. So one is disempowering and one is empowering. One is creating darkness, the other one is creating enlightenment. One will naturally bring you in greater and greater distress, the other one will bring you greater and greater happiness. This is confirming Bhagavad Gita. The energy of the Lord transforms from Mahamaya to Yoga Maya and appears to pure devotees in her real feature. The material nature therefore appears to function in three phases: as the creative principle of the material world, which is generally what people understand. The material world, the material energy. So that's the creative aspect. As ignorance and as knowledge. So now, when we talk about the material energy, when we talk about Devi Yesaguna Mahi, Krishna's divine energy, that divine energy is acting in the form of the creative potency, the creative principle. It's acting as the ignorant principle, the covering potency, and is also acting as the revealing potency, the knowledge potency. One potency acting in three different ways according to the scenario, the situation that we in. As disclosed in the previous verse, the third creation, the power of knowledge, is also created. The conditioned souls are not originally fools, but by the influence of vidya, function of the material nature, they are made fools, and thus they are unable to utilize knowledge in the proper channel. So I have a question. If you meet somebody, or it could be you yourself, where you're in a situation that you are foolish, that you are fool-like, how would you see it? If you're in a situation where you meet someone who is foolish, or you may have been in that situation, or you're still in that situation where you are foolish, how would you respond to that? Or how should we respond to that? Just like I can meet somebody who's foolish, and I can immediately say, yeah, you're so foolish. So that's one way to respond. From what we just read, how does that change our response to ourselves or to those that we meet who are foolish? Did you get the question? Compassionate, very good. So maybe expand it a little. Ofana says compassionate. Good. Try to give knowledge. Good. Yes. So instead of blaming the person, we should be compassionate, realizing before we knew Krishna, we were in that state. Yes. So Prabhupada is making very clear that originally we were not fools, but now we covered. This implication is for everyone. That means ourselves and others. Sharina says, try to be a bit more compassionate and tolerant by understanding that the person you meet is covered and understanding that we are not perfect either. Good. So when we ourselves in situation of ignorance, or we meet others who are foolish and ignorant, we should not criticize them for that. It's just the nature of where we are in this world. Avan says, from a material perspective, we could ignore or condemn that individual. Spiritually, the person is moving along his or her journey. Good. A devotee would understand that the individual creation is complete as per Shri Ishopanishad. Yes. So because we are in this environment, then that is expected. There is no need to judge. Right? Om Purnam Ada Purnamidam. Everything coming from the supreme complete whole is complete. Material world is complete. The individuals in this material world are complete. Everything is complete, which means everything that is going on in this material world is perfect. It's perfect according to the environment we're in. When you start comparing the true nature of the living entity and his true environment in relation to the perfect material world, then it becomes incongruent. You can't argue with someone out of foolishness, but you can help them back with some wisdom. Okay, good. So when we meet somebody or when we in that same situation, we should understand and not become depressed. We should simply understand that I am now covered by the material energy, and all I need to do now is expose myself with a process or the wisdom that can uncover that ignorance. Now, yes, there may be obstacles that prevent me from exposing myself with that knowledge because it's a process. But as soon as I bring myself, just like I'm in darkness, if there is no sunshine, I'm in darkness. If there's no artificial light, I'm in darkness. So all I need to do is bring myself where there is light, and I'll be able to see. So that's the process. If somebody's in ignorance, somebody's foolish, all I need to do, instead of blaming them, instead of criticizing them, instead of condemning them, I'm doing a disservice. I'm actually bringing them more down. Instead of trying to help them from whatever level they are to take the next step in progressing towards elevation, towards enlightenment. That one step may not be university grade. It may not even be secondary grade. It may not even be primary grade. It may be kindergarten grade. It doesn't matter. It's what is natural, what is the easiest step, next step to take for them to move forward. And like that, step by step, yes, it will take a journey. It will take some time. It may take lifetimes, but that's irrelevant. You cannot, as Prabhupada says, right? If somebody is ill, you can't give them a full, if they have indigestion, you can't give them a full plate of prasad, 12-course meal. You'll make them more sick. You need to give them the ideal dosage of gyan, of vidya, to take them further. And this way, slowly but surely, they can progress and eventually come out of the ignorance. Prabhupada continues. By the influence of darkness, the conditioned soul forgets his relationship with the Supreme Lord and is overwhelmed by attachment, hatred, pride, ignorance, and false identification, the 5 kinds of illusions that cause material bondage. So what does this avidya do to people, to living entities, to us? Firstly, it allows us to forget the Supreme Lord. We all have forgotten Krishna. So that's the influence of the material energy. Then it puts us in a framework of attachment. We begin to cultivate hatred. We become proud, ignorance, and then finally, false identification. So this is what this avidya does. And once we bring ourselves to knowledge, now we become attached to Krishna. We don't hate the good and the bad because we understand it in relation to the material world and in relation to Krishna. We don't become proud because we understand everything is coming from Krishna. Our abilities, the energies, the resources, everything is coming from Krishna. And ultimately, we're coming out of ignorance because we're understanding our true identity as spirit souls, as servants of Krishna. And in this way, we progress on the spiritual path. 18. Sad ime prakrita sarga vaikrintan apime shrinu Rajoboja Bhagavato Lileyam Harimedasa. All the above are natural creations by the external energy of the Lord. Now, hear from me about the creation by Brahma, who is an incarnation of the mode of passion and who, in the matter of creation, has a brain like that of the personality of Godhead. How wonderful. Now, Brahma is no ordinary person. His brain is very powerful. He's the first created being. He has to create the material creation. So naturally, Krishna has given him the proper instruments to perform his function. 19. Saptamo mukhya sargostu sadvidas tash tusham chahya vanaspatya vanaspatyo shadilata twakshara viruddha druma. The seventh creation is that of movable, immovable entities, which are of six kinds. The fruit trees without flowers, the trees and plants which exist until the fruit is ripe, creepers, ripe plants, creepers which have no support, and trees with flowers and fruits. So now the creation of trees, plants, and these are also divided into six types of plants. And so we can see very detailed. It's not like researching, then classifying, coming to conclusion. Very, very detailed. Why? Because we're getting it directly from the source. Utshrot tatsastama praya anta sparsha visheshina. All the immovable trees and plants seek their subsistence upwards. They are almost unconscious, but have feelings of pain within. They are manifested in variegatedness. So here, very clear the qualities of plants. They have feeling. Externally, they're unconscious or almost unconscious, but it doesn't mean they're not alive. They actually feel pain. They cannot reveal that. They cannot display that due to the body they have. Therefore, there is almost unconscious, but there is pleasure and pain. They're feeling that. Tiraskam ashtama sarga sosta vim sad vido mata avido buritamaso grana gna ridya vedina. The eighth creation is that of the lower species of life. And they are of different varieties, numbering 28. So that's not guesswork. How many species? Maybe 5, 20, 25. No, very clear. 28 categories. They are all extensively foolish and ignorant. They know the desirables by smell, but are unable to remember anything within the heart. So these species, they have a certain nature, just like plants have a certain nature. So even these species have a certain nature. They're very instinctive and ignorant. In the Vedas, Prabhupada says, the symptoms of the lower animals are described as follows. Ate taresham posuna asana pipase eva bivi gnanan na vignatam vadanti cha vignatam pashyanti na vidu swastanam na lokav iti yadva buri tamaso bahu rasha granane neva jananti hridayam prati swapriyam vastyeva vidanti bhojana sayanadyartham grinanti. Lower animals have knowledge only of their hunger and thirst. They have no acquired knowledge, no vision. Their behavior exhibits no dependence on formalities, extensively ignorant. They can know their desirables only by smell, and by such intelligence only can they understand what is favorable and unfavorable. Their knowledge is concerned only with eating and sleeping. So, very clear, very detailed, very concise description of lower animals. Therefore, even the most ferocious lower animals, such as the tigers, can be tamed simply by regularly supplying meals and accommodations for sleeping. Only snakes cannot be tamed by such an arrangement. So they, in the circus, they're able to tame wild tigers. Rob is making the point. No surprise. Why? Because that's all that the low animals know. Eating and sleeping. If you provide eating and you provide sleeping, hey, I'm your friend. So they can be tamed. Now only snakes, Prabhupada is making the point, cannot be tamed. So this is the nature of snakes. That's why the snakes are said to be the most envious creatures. So all the species have a certain nature, a certain quality. And the living entity gets those specific bodies according to the nature of their desires. (22) Gaura ajo mahisha Krishna sukaro gavayoruru dvi sabha vasachame avirushtraschasattama. O purest Vidura, of the lower animals, the cow, the goat, the buffalo, Krishna stag, hog, Gavaya animal, deer, lamb, and camel, all have cloven hooves. So now we have a classification, categorization of specific animals according to cloven hooves. 23. Kara swataro gora sarabas chamaritata ete chaika sapha shata shrinu pascha nakam pashun. The horse, the mule, the ass, the gora, saraba bishon, and wild cow all have only one hoof. Now you may hear from me about animals who have 5 nails. 24. Swa Shrigalo Vrkro Vyagro Maharaja Sasa Shalako Simha Kapir Gaja Kurmo Godacha Makaradaya. The dog, the jackal, the tiger, the fox, cat, rabbit, sajaru, lion, monkey, elephant, tortoise, alligators, Koshapa, etc. all have 5 nails in their claws. They are known as Pashya Nakas, or animals having 5 nails. 25. Anka Gridara Bakashnena Basha Balu Kabbarhina Amsa Shaharasad Chakravva Kakolu Kadaya Kada Aga. The heron, vulture, crane, hawk, basha, baluka, peacock, swan, sharasha, chakravaka, crow, owl, and others are the birds. 26. arvo arvak shrotascha arvak shrotastu navama shatar eka vido nrinam rajo dika karma para dukecha sukhamanina. The creation of the human beings who are of one species only and who stock their eatables in the belly is the ninth in the rotation. In the human race, the mode of passion is very prominent. Humans are always busy in midst of miserable life, but they think themselves happy in all respects. So now this verse is talking about us. And again, as we said, don't be surprised if you find yourself in the situation or you find others in the situation. Why? Because that is the programming. And what is the programming? In the human race, the mode of passion is very prominent. Now, who can tell me from Bhagavad Gita what are some of the traits of somebody in the mode of passion? What are some of the traits of somebody in mode of passion? Because that's the prominent mode that everybody is working from. That is the programming that's done. Endeavor very hard. Yep. Any others? Lust, anger, greed. Yes. Family attachments. Yes, incessive attachment. There's another one that's very important in terms of passion. Lord Krishna describes in Bhagavad Gita. Pride, yes. Another starts with a D. Or you can say two words, U and D. First word with U, second word with D. Those in the mode of passion, how many desires they have? Unlimited desires, unending desires. They just have one desire after another. So this is mode of passion. Then humans are always busy in the midst of miserable life. Let me ask you a true question. Or let me ask you a question and answer it truly. Right now, as we sit globally, maybe even in our own country, are we in the midst of miserable life? Are people suffering? Is there lack? Is there challenges? Is there problems? Is there difficulties? Is there exploitation? Yeah. Yes, yes, yes. Is that by chance? Is that like serious? Is that true? Yes. Why? Because that's how the design is. Now, let me ask you another question. Will there ever be a time, and think carefully, will there ever be a time where there is the human being and around him, in his country, in his location, in the world, in the universe, it is all blissful? There is no exploitation. There is no challenges. There is no turmoil. There is no negative experiences. Will there ever be a situation like that? Prema says, nope. Definitely nope. Les says, no, not in the material world. Exactly. Ivan says, miserableness would exist till eternity. Just need to be differentiated. Yes. Not in Kali Yuga. Rasaraj Prabhu, even in Satya Yuga, even in Satya Yuga, were the demons in Satya Yuga? Did the Lord have to incarnate in Satya Yuga for the demons? To kill the demons and to protect the devotees? If yes, it means they were also disturbed. So yes, not only Kali Yuga. Did the Lord appear in Tetra Yuga? Did the Lord appear in Dwapara Yuga? Were the demons in other yugas? Most definitely. So yes, there is this. You're not going to find it. Okay. So if you're never going to find that situation that everything is perfect, and the situation is not perfect, should you become unsettled? Should you become depressed? Should you become despondent? Should you become heartbroken if you do not find that situation? So practically, we may be in a situation that is challenging and I can't find a way out. Then it means, Ivan says yes and no. So it means you shouldn't be depressed, despondent, but it doesn't mean you should accept it that that is the norm. Because there is another environment. If we do, we should use that as a springboard to deepen our faith and devotion, correct? So we should see the situation, not become depressed, despondent, more negative, but we should see that that's how the material world is designed. And now let me use that to rise above. Let me use that to go to an environment that is what I'm seeking for. And the wonderful thing is, if we in that situation and we accept Krishna, then what happens? Even while you're in that situation, it's described, as Prabhupada describes, that negative energy or ignorance can become vidya. That means you can be in a Vaikuntha bubble, even in the material world. You can be in Vrindavan, even in the material world, simply by adjusting your consciousness, not your environment. Okay, so this is how we capitalize on the good situation, we capitalize on the bad situation to transcend the situation, to surrender to the Supreme Lord and become Krishna conscious. Yes, we need to accept it as the Lord's will and adjust, engage more in devotional service. Yes. Wonderful. So that's how we should see the situation, see every scenario, every situation in this way. Okay, then the last quality of human beings, but they think themselves happy in all respects. This is the problem. And I'm sure you met many people like that. You're in a difficult situation. How are you? I'm fine. Nobody wants to reveal their misery. You see Instagram. Did you ever go to Instagram and see posts and reels of people sharing their misery? Instagram is filled predominantly with everybody who's doing very well. It's like the best thing in the world. Why? because they think themselves happy in all respects, even though they are amidst miserable life. So this is the reality. This is the nature of human beings. Prabhupada in the purport expands this. Human being is more passionate than animals. And thus, the sex life of human being is more irregular. The animals have their due time for sexual intercourse, but human beings have no regular time for such activities. The human being is endowed with a higher advanced stage of consciousness for getting relief from the existence of material miseries. But due to his ignorance, he thinks that his higher consciousness is meant for advancing in material comforts of life. So they're misusing the ability and the intelligence that they've got. Thus, his intelligence is misused in the animal propensities, eating, sleeping, defending, and mating, instead of spiritual realization. By advancing in material comforts, the human being puts himself into more miserable conditions, but illusioned by the material energy, he always thinks himself happy, even while in the midst of misery. Such misery of human life is distinct from the natural, comfortable life enjoyed even by animals. So very clear diagnosis of the human being. 27. Vaikritas tarya evaite devasargas cha sattama vaikarikas tuya prokta komaras tubhya yatmaka. O good Vidura, these last three creations and the creation of demigods, the 10th creation, are Vaikrita creations. They are different from the previously described Prakrita natural creations. The appearance of the Kumaras is both. 28 to 29. Devasargas chasta vido vibhuda pitaro shura Gandharvas Pashara Siddha Yaksha Rakshasmi Charana Bhuta Pretas Pishachascha Vidyara Kinnaradaya Dasaite Vidura Kyatma Sargaste Vishva Shrikrita. The creation of the demigods is of 8 varieties. The demigods, the forefathers, the asuras, the demons, the Gandharvas, the apsaras or angels, the yakshas and rakshas, the siddhas, charanas, vidyadharas, the bhutas, the pretas, the pishachas, and the superhuman beings, celestial singers, etc. All are created by Brahma, the creator of the universe. Purport. As explained in the 2nd canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, the siddhas are inhabitants of Siddhaloka, where the residents travel in space without vehicles. At their mere will, they can pass from one planet to another without difficulty. Therefore, in the upper planets, the inhabitants are far superior to the inhabitants of this planet in all matters of art, culture, and science, since they possess brains superior to those of human beings. The spirits and jinn mentioned in this connection are also counted amongst the demigods because they are able to perform uncommon functions not possible for men. 30. Ata param pravakshyami vamsan manvantarani cha evam raja pluto shrishta kalpa dvishat mabur hari Shrijatya moga sankalpa atmevatma nanam atmanam atmana. Now I shall describe the descendants of Manu, descendants of the Manus, the creator Brahma, as the incarnation of the passionate mode of the personality of Godhead, creates the universal affairs with unfailing desires in every millennium by the force of the Lord's energy. Purport. The cosmic manifestation is an expansion of one of the many energies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Creator and the created are both emanations of the same supreme truth as stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, as stated in the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Janmad Yasya Yata, Srimad Bhagavatam 111. Thus ends the Bhaktivinoda purports of the third canto, 10th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Divisions of Creation. So here is the map that we just covered. The types of destruction. There's kala destruction, dravya destruction, and guna destruction. At different times, there is destruction, both universal, macro and micro destruction. Then the different types of creation called prakrita sarga. There's the creation of the Mahatattva, then the false ego, ahankar, then the sense objects, tanmantra, then the indriya senses, then the demigods, and then ignorance. This is the foundation, the subtle blueprints, the building blocks. Then you get 4 types of secondary creation by Brahma, Visarga. That's the immovable living entities. He's describing characteristics and 6 types of them. Then the lower species, the characteristics and the 28 types. And then the human beings, their characteristics, and the demigods, 8 types. So in this way, the Lord empowered Lord Brahma to create these different species in terms of Visarga, secondary creation. All right, so in conclusion of this chapter, let us just summarize. The first lesson we can learn is that we should seek knowledge only from a qualified, trustworthy source. Vidura went to Maitreya Muni because he knew Maitreya Muni is qualified to answer all his questions. Maitreya Muni was also very sincere in his inquiries. So it wasn't thinking, going to somebody just thinks, somebody that doesn't know anything, somebody is not empowered to give knowledge, because then all you're going to get is more confusion, more questions. Whenever, for example, you'll find that when we get the Bhagavatam, it's like all the questions. I don't know how many of you had this experience. And then I've heard many devotees, they make this point. I had so many questions, and when I came to Krishna consciousness, all my questions got answered. Any of you had that experience? I had tons of questions. And when I started reading Prabhupada's books and came to Krishna consciousness, they all got answered. So if one does not approach the lash, if one does not approach a bona fide source, then what will happen? You will get what's on the right-hand side. More and more confusion, more and more questions. Whereas in Krishna consciousness, there's more and more clarity. The more we read, the more we study Prabhupada's books, the more we get clarity. Like today, we got clarity about our blueprint, the human blueprint, the design, where we are. And just knowing that gives us so many benefits, empowers us, helps us in so many ways. Second lesson, service and devotion is the true foundation of any great undertaking. And it has no retirement. If you look at Lord Brahma's life, he started with devotion and penance. And nobody sees that. That's the unseen foundation. The devotional sacrifice Just like we see Srila Prabhupada, we don't see the effort he had put in, the preparation that he had put in. Sasur Maharaj calls it the lifetime in preparation. We don't see that. We see the fruits. So in our life also, we need to focus and be very attentive to our practice, to our devotional practice, to our sadhana. Because without this foundation, without that as the main basis, without that going deep, that tree that grows will be very weak. So we need to get the roots properly founded, grounded, deep, mature, pure. Then the preparation of what we want to achieve in this world in service to the Lord will bear fruits, like in the case of Brahma. Nothing happens by chance. There has to be a foundation, there has to be preparation, and then the fruits will take care of themselves. Then through Brahma's life, we learn a very, very important lesson right at the beginning of Brahma's life. Even advanced practitioners get shaken by turbulence, but knowledge and steady effort overcomes it. Brahma saw the waves. They were turbulent, impacting the lotus, the foundation that he's on. And he did not get disturbed. He did not become depressed. He continued rendering his service with persistence, with determination, with proper guidance, proper knowledge. And in this way overcame the turbulence. This is right at the beginning of creation, this turbulence. And here we are expecting that there will be no turbulence in our life. It's very utopian. You will have turbulence in your life. It's the question of how you're going to manage the turbulence. It's how you're going to see the turbulence. And it's how you're going to use that to surrender more, to become more dedicated to the lotus feet of Krishna. Just like an eagle, when an eagle sees a storm, the eagle does not fly under the storm. It does not go lower. It does not have within its psychic construction to say, I'll fly lower. No. The eagle always wants to fly higher. So what it does, it goes through the storm. And as it goes through the storm, it uses the power, the energy of the storm, the wind of the storm to rise above the storm. So we also need to use difficulties, challenges to rise above and surrender more to the Supreme Personality of God. Then Maitri Muni is describing the cycle of time in this chapter. Krishna's hand is right there in the form of time. And everything operates under time. Just like we see the seed is germinating at the bottom, then it becomes a seedling, then it grows into a plant, goes into a tree, and then it matures as a tree, and then it decays. This is the nature and cycle of time. So everything operates under time. And whatever setbacks or growths, the good and the bad, that we experience through the cyclic nature of time, we need to see it with the eyes of equanimity. We need to keep a sober mind, a steady mind, not be disturbed by the good and the bad. Lord Krishna says, Matra Sparshas tu Kuntaya. You need to see the experience just like winter and summer seasons and be steady in both. And then in this final section, we covered creation very systematically. 9 different forms of creation, from the most subtle aspects, blueprint aspects, building, refining, to the most grossest. So growth is systematic and staged. The true power comes from alignment and not ego. So we need to, in our own capacities, try to align our abilities with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, not align them with our ego. When we align our abilities, like Lord Brahma, to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then what we produce will be beneficial for humanity. We'll be empowered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in this way, this beautiful chapter shares many wonderful lessons for us, how to live in this world, understand the reality of this world, and most importantly, understand how creation is very systematic, very scientific, very detailed. And this we know only because we are given this knowledge directly by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who appears in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam. Kantarat Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai, Go Pramanande, Hari Hari. Are there any questions or comments or feedback or reflections? Next week, we will be starting with chapter 11, calculation of time from the atom. Another very mind-blowing, enlightening chapter for the scientists, for those who are very scientific. It's amazing how this wisdom is contained in this amazing Amala Puran. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that Srimad Bhagavatam is our source of evidence. Srimad Bhagavatam is our source of reference. It is our basis of knowledge, practice, wisdom. And you will not find a scripture more superior than Srimad Bhagavatam. It's just the nature of the Bhagavatam. Just like you can't find a personality greater than Krishna, because that's the nature of Krishna. Similarly, Srimad Bhagavatam has its position. And Jiva Goswami, in his Krishna Sandarbhas, in his Sat Sandarbhas, establishes the superior position of Srimad Bhagavatam. So associating with Srimad Bhagavatam, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, trying to memorize these wonderful, amazing points, and praying to Srimad Bhagavatam will benefit us, help us tremendously in our devotion to Krishna. Right. If there is no other points, we will end. I'm not sure if anyone is typing. If anyone is typing, raise your hands. Raise your Zoom hand. Zoom's got a hand. Okay, good. And then thank you very much for everyone's association. Mother Les says, Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for the beautiful Krishna. The text puts human creation in text 26 and the Devas in 28 and 29. How to understand that? Yes, because human creation, obviously sequence may be different, but in terms of humans, remember, Maitri Muni is describing the creation and Brahma is creating systematically. So the description is given from lower species to higher species, and obviously then the highest. So in that way, there's a progression in terms of evolution of the species. So that's how it's described. And in terms of the position, human beings are generally in Earth planet, whereas demigods are in higher planets, and therefore they are placed there. So yeah, it's in terms of sequence, it's perfect. In terms of creation, and again, here's another point that we should try to at least understand. The creation is given to us, and it's systematic, right? Like the trees and the birds and the beasts. It's described like that. But it may not necessarily be like that. We don't know how Brahma is multitasking and creating all the species at the same time. It may be difficult to comprehend. So therefore, there is a systematic unfolding and progression. So sometimes the scripture is describing systematically just for our understanding, but it may be, from a time perspective, so quick that it seems like it's instantaneously. So, in terms of creation, we don't need to, let's say, consider or bother too much in terms of the sequence, etc. The most important thing is the understanding of the species, and especially understanding of where we are. Ivan, could this be different levels of self-consciousness and God consciousness? Yes. Remember, the human beings are predominantly identifying themselves as this body. The demigods, which are higher evolutionary beings, they, as Prabhupada described, they have a service. Okay, so they are administrators. Now, remember that the administrators were already created before Brahma creates, in terms of the blueprints. So the blueprints of the demigods were already created. Brahma is now creating, using those blueprints, that the universal form manifested, and then making all the different species related to the creation for the living entities that have been impregnated into that creation. This is why you will find some universes do not have certain species, because the living entities that are inhabiting that planet some universe may not have certain species because there are no living entities for that species. Brahma can create all species of lives, but specifically for the living entities that are in that universe. So he creates the body, then the living entities can take those bodies and then perform whatever function they have in the universe. So in that sense also, the universe is populated accordingly. All right. Thank you very much for everyone's association. We will meet again next week. Canto Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Nitai, Go Pramanande, Hari Hari Bol.